Peter, this is an incredible breakthrough. I mean, what a discovery, a psychoreactive substance. Whatever this stuff is, it responds to human emotional states.
Mood slime.
We've been running tests to see if we can get an equally strong positive reaction.
What kind of test?
Well, we sing to it, and we talk to it, and say supportive, nurturing things to it.
You're not sleeping with it, are you, Ray?
We came.
There's a scene which you said that you literally achieved orgasm in the theater, and it was a moment of enlightenment.
Yes, I was not permitted in that theater any longer after that.
I am so sorry.
Sadly.
I am sorry. But the scene in itself, which you described as a breakthrough, and you realized your life's ambition and therefore led you to this profession, was a scene about a discussion, I believe. It's about a sugary treat known as a Twinkie. Now, could you explain how that scene, which is only less than a minute long, how that could bring about such a moment of clarity to you, an epiphany, if you will?
Well, you see, when it comes down to it, and when it comes out of it, when we're talking about sexuality, when we are talking about the horizontal mambo, when we are talking about the hunka chunka, when we are talking about hiding the salami, what we are truly discussing is not a physical act per se, although that is certainly part of it. What we are talking about is a psychological realization of one's power. What we are talking about when we talk about splooge is an exercise of power, is an assertion of one's strength and life force being displayed and shared. It is one of the most cathartic experiences one can have in this, and I find it often more stimulating than what the typical textual sexual experience is about, and if I may say so, I am rock hard as I have been speaking with you, and it
yes,
is.
I can see that from where I'm sitting. It's amazing.
Yes, I am pitching a tent in my mat.
I hope everyone else can see this. I know the people in the back have a hard time. But anyway, continue.
Oh, certainly. Well, in the scene you are discussing, and I will do my best for the sensitivities of our somewhat repressed members who may be in the audience, I'm not certain, to hold back from climaxing as I discuss this. But the scene in question, in which Ernie Hudson's character is effectively learning about the power that is accumulating, that is building, that is flowing and causing a rise of various incidents and various proportions in New York City, that the Twinkie is used as an analog, a sort of illustration to explain how power is working and what the size is of the power. And of course, what is a Twinkie but a picture of the act of sexual intercourse? It is a a pathway filled with cream. It is, in effect, a telescopic view of the vagina in a penetration by a penis in ejaculation. And what it effectively did in that scene was it was a revelation of sorts. It was I felt like I had plunged to the bottom of the subtext and effectively had burst through on the mountain of the other side of interpretation at that moment. It was a perfect just summary, shall I say, joie de bête noire that I had been searching for in my entire academic career. And that one line, and I must brace myself, that's a big Twinkie. I apologize.
Are you all right? Do you need a glass of water?
Perhaps a towel. I've made a little mess.
Can we get a towel from Mr. Johnson? Dr. Johnson?
I apologize.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. We had no worries. We had Harlan Ellison here earlier here today, so that chair was probably already stained.
Yes, it did feel a little moist when I sat down.
I believe Mr. Ellison had a terrible accent. I'm sorry about this. Here's your towel, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, and that line for me is the perfect absolute pinnacle of subtextual sexuality in cinema. I feel that there is no better way of phrasing it than to say that's a really big Twinkie.
I'm sorry.
I'm so glad I have this towel.
Do you need a towel?
No, it's all right. It's very absorbent.
Okay.
So,
would you like some more water?
yes, please. That would be good. Thank you.
Now, you've talked about you've written extensively about each of the characters and how they react to their own sexuality. That the Harold Ramis character is very curious and experimental about his sexuality. As I recall in one scene where he wants the Murray character to collect samples of a gooish substance that a ghost left behind, and in a later scene he says to the female worker at the Ghostbusters headquarters, which is in a firehouse, that his hobbies include collecting spores, molds, and fungus.
Yes, and what I have actually reconsidered my position somewhat on the character of as you mentioned, the Harold Ramis character. That while I feel that I focused somewhat too heavily upon the textual level in making the assertion that he was exploring his sexuality, that he was desirous of various kinds of, shall we say, icky substances that he might then spread upon his face, as though he had received a money shot, shall we say. And what I believe is more important in understanding his character is the way that he grips the firehouse pole as he slides down. That I feel is far more subtextually important because it is in effect a scene of masturbation. It shows that while he is somewhat desirous of experimentation, he is far more repressed and far more wanting to keep the experience to himself rather than to share it. And that, I believe, is a more shall we say, accurate interpretation of the character, which I have included in my upcoming book.
Yes, we
Which
definitely look
is
forward to it.
yes.
Now, moving on to the next character, the Dan Aykroyd character. You had some very fascinating things to say about the Dan Aykroyd character, Ray Stans. You pointed to 3 specific scenes, and I'm going to name those scenes now, and I want you to tell us how the outcome, the conclusion you came to about this character. The first scene is when they're purchasing the firehouse, and the Dan Aykroyd character is very childlike and excited, and he certainly shows enjoyment sliding down the firehouse pole. In fact, he says, "Does this pole still work?" And then says, "This pole is great," to something to that extent. I may be misquoting. And then later on, he does have a wet dream concerning receiving a sexual act from a ghost. And in the third scene, which you highlight, the conclusion near the conclusion of the scene, they are giving a choice to whatever they think of will create form, and it will come and destroy them. Not only them, but the world itself. And in an act of desperation, he thinks back to his childhood, and that spawns the much lovable character that we all know now as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And he describes his memories about roasting Stay Puft Marshmallow at I believe a summer camp. Yes, I believe the summer camp. And it's saying that form, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, was a form that could never ever destroy him. Now, what can you say about these scenes, and what conclusions can you come to about the Ray Stans / Dan Aykroyd character?
Well, Ray Stans is an unfortunately repressed character. Once again, there is a textual scene which, to the layman's perspective, would appear to be a scene exploring sexuality, in which he is given what is referred to in layman's terms as a blow job by the ghost in question, the female, or at least appearing to be female ghost. And what is truly happening in all 3 of these scenes that you have mentioned is that Ray Stans is effectively expressing his castration fears. You see, when he asks if the pole still works, what he is expressing is his fear that his phallus is effectively not effective. It is not useful any longer. It is not powerful. It cannot penetrate. It stays limp. It is inert. And as he slides down the pole, he is unfortunately not confirmed. He's not affirmed, I should say, but his fear is confirmed, and thus, in order to overcome his anxiety, he compensates by saying that his pole is great, that he has a great phallus, that is a effective and powerful penis, and is virile, but unfortunately that is not what he truly thinks.
And may I just jump in?
Yes.
And
Certainly.
This line just came to me. He actually does say to the others, "You've got to try this pole."
Well, yes, you see, and once again, castration anxiety, he is trying so hard to express his sexuality. He is trying so hard to have anyone in his life who will relieve him of the anxieties that he has experienced sexuality because of his repression that has afflicted him for so long. So this is an invitation which, of course, does not go heeded in that particular scene, as I recall. As far as the scene with the blowjob, quote unquote, the ghost is, of course, not a good partner. this is not something that is a good thing. He is effectively experiencing an encounter with death. He is not be able to give his life force to another living being, but he is having it taken from him by a figure of death. And so this is actually while I've watched the scene many a time, and many of my students and in fact some of my colleagues have laughed at the scene. This is a tragic scene in which his life is literally being drained away by this specter, and it is appalling to me that anyone would laugh at such a scene of horror.
But why does his face show ecstasy if his life is being taken away?
Well, that is a very good point, and the answer to that is that in the period of time when the human body is about to expire entirely, you see there are two kinds of death. There is brain death, and then there is what we call somatic death. And in brain death, the psyche, the personality, everything that comprises an identity has ceased to exist. There is no longer a spark in the brain. But there is a further stage of death in which the body's functions have all entirely ceased, where blood flow has stopped, where nerve action has ended, and where muscle reflexes and various functions do not act as they normally would. And effectively, what is happening in that scene, as what would seem to be ecstasy has overcome his face, is a reflection of the rictus smile. It is an involuntary response where his mouth corners appear to be forming what we would recognize as a smile, but in fact are failing and dying. And finally, the final scene, which you have mentioned, of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man being this fantasy figure that he has been convinced will not harm him. This is effectively a personification of his repression. You see, his textual level of thinking, again, the surface, is telling him that this is a safe figure, that this is someone who is good. But as we know very well, candy is also associated with cavities, with decay, and effectively with death. So what has happened is that in his repression, in this deep repression that he has had since he was a child at summer camp, he has come to associate a figure of death as being a form of comfort. In effect, his desire for death, his death drive, his thanatos, is almost completely conquered his desire for sex, his eros. And in this scene, his own psychological underworkings have betrayed him. And he visibly shows the distress at coming to this realization. But fortunately for him, it is a breakthrough moment, for he is not alone. He is with his various partners, whom he will entwine his own stream with, and overcome this figure of death, of decay, of candy.
Now, I may remind you that the Venkman character says a line referring to the same Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. He says the line, "If we get this guy laid, we won't have any trouble." Would you interpret that as that sex is a way of defeating death? That sex is a way of making death not a figure of evil?
Oh, certainly, certainly. That is, in fact, what Freud is all about. That is what my profession, which some of my colleagues have said that my ideas are antiquated, perhaps even delusional. They fail to realize this truth that in fact sex does conquer death, that not only procreation but also just the very effective life force of sperm, of the ejaculation, of sexuality is life-giving. In fact, if you notice, if I may I if you would just
Yes.
place your hand on top of mine.
Okay.
All right. And do you feel how soft my skin is?
Yeah, it's very soft.
Thank you. You see, this is because of the moisturizing properties of sperm.
Oh, really? I thought it would be a lotion. It smells like cherry.
Oh, yes, that is because I eat a lot of fruit.
Oh, you.
Yes. So you see, I will always start out the day with a bottle of my own spunk and spread that over my skin. I have beautiful skin, as you see. It is soft and healthy. There's life-giving properties in this, and most certainly death-defying and death-defeating properties in sexuality. And most certainly that statement by Venkman is an expression of that idea, and really an encapsulation of that idea. In fact, I feel rock hard once again at understanding the amazing summation of my ideas that is found in the film Ghostbusters.
Well, Dr. Johnson, this has been a thrill, a brilliant evening with you. And I hope that once your new book is finished, you'll definitely come back and come to talk to us more about the discoveries that you have made.
Oh, most certainly. One of the discoveries, of course, will be a title for the new book.
Oh, well, we can't wait. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Johnson, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, Bill.
And if you join us next week, we'll be talking with Dr. Newenberg as he discusses how the movies Striptease and Showgirls are actually statements about Vietnam. But for Book Talk, I'm Darkside. Or Ted. Or George. Whoever I am. I don't know who I am anymore. Good night.
We'll call you Peter.
Oh, yes. I'm Peter. I may be Peter next week, but I may be Vanessa next. Yes. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.